All right, Parker. So to begin this, can you tell us like a little bit about yourself? Where you from? Where you went to school?
So I was born and raised here in the Sioux. I'm 37 years old. It's been my 18th season coaching here. Went to school here at Lake State, studied fire science. I've been coaching youth hockey in the area. Did a lot of U18, U16. Coached junior A for a period of time. Came here in the 2015, 2016. Tried starting the men's ACHA program. We ran that for a couple years. And then went back to coaching U18 hockey, and here we are now.
Okay. And then when you did come to school here originally, was there a club team that you played on? Or?
Yeah, there was club hockey. So I attended college here in the early 2000s. And it was very much ACHA hockey was just getting going in the early 2000s. And it was very club. There was really no structure to it. It was pickup hockey at best for the most part. You had a couple schools that were really kind of separated themselves from other programs, but wasn't supported by the university. And it was a group of guys, group of college age buddies that we just got together and we played some teams.
Do you think the ACHA as a whole has come together and built a steady basis around themselves?
Oh, I think ACHA has absolutely exploded. There's more ACHA teams than there is NCAA teams. I think ACHA as a whole is doing a very good job in filling that gap between NCAA sports, where you have a lot of athletes that aren't necessarily, they're not going to go NCAA D1, but they're still great athletes, where a lot of these schools are understanding they can fill this gap with these students and offer them something great. I think ACHA, aside from, the NCAA D1, that'll always be the cream of the crop. I think in short order, ACHA is going to really envelop a lot of college hockey.
Okay. Then when did the women's ACHA team start? When did their program begin?
The program, so they tried, their original go at it was the same year that we tried the first time with the men's team, 2015-16. Again, student ran, not a great deal of structure, didn't get off the ground. So I was hired in June of 2020, right in the heat of COVID and all that stuff, and that was our first year. We got the team together. We had a good recruiting class that came in. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we were only able to play a semester. So this has been our first full year. We're in our second year of existence, but this is our first full season of competing in the CCWHA.
Okay. And then last year, was that rough with COVID?
Yeah.
How did the season go in general?
Didn't win a game last year. It was I enjoyed it for the sense of being able to get our feet wet, understand college hockey, understand what it takes, the traveling, the time commitment from the girls, academics, everything like that. It was an unfortunate year with COVID, but it was a great year for us to get to learn the process and not just jump into it straight on right into a full season. So it was very beneficial, and I got to make a lot of connections with other ACHA women's coaches. Got to really get a good look in traveling to some places where how other teams operated, what they were doing, and what they were offering. So unfortunately, only getting to play about 12 games. We didn't win a game, so it was a tough year in regards to that. But it was a good year for building, and we were in the waiting pool of ACHA, and it was great to get our feet wet.
Okay. As we all know, the season's been phenomenal. The girls are playing very well. What was that process over summer to get some new recruits in, maybe strengthen up some of the returning players from last year?
Yeah, it was a long summer. It was a long year. It was a long summer. I'm very competitive. Being born and raised here, my family being involved in Laker hockey since I was alive. I was born after a Laker hockey game. So coming here and being local and getting the opportunity to do it with one of my best friends who's the men's head coach, I wasn't going to fail at it. I did not want to fail at it, and I wanted to find good quality people from around the country that were interested in doing the same thing and making history here at Lake State. They've never had a legitimate women's program like this, so my recruiting was all over the country. I was lucky where we're a nearly fully funded program that the university allows us to really go out and recruit well. So I spent a week at Denver at the U19 Nationals and was able to get a couple girls this incoming fall that played. And we have four more that'll be joining us for the fall of 22 that were at that tournament that they competed at. And my recruiting was just all over the country. I got a huge recruit for us was obviously Reagan Ackroyd and Maddie Pott, coming out of Western Canada, out of Alberta, out of Okotoks and St. Albert. Those two girls, what they brought to this program were massive. Heather Lamb, who's local in St. Ignace, was playing NCAA D3 hockey. Things just weren't really driving the way that she'd like them to. Having her come in and be a leader was absolutely massive. And then the girls that withstood last year and dealt with everything and pushed through everything and believed in me as a coach when I told them that, I'll build a program around you, keep going. Tori Mishak, who did that, and she stood through it all. Megan Gary, who stood through it all, and Hallie McLaughlin, those three girls were pivotal in staying true to it. And Autumn Fosmore, our goaltending has been a huge anchor for us in this season. We have two of the best goalies in the league. And for those group of girls to stick with it and not leave me, not leave this program, and stand by my side and believe in me, and adding what we added with the mixture of them, these girls have done it. It has definitely not been me in the sense that they're the ones that go out and play the game. They're the ones that go out and put the effort. I do my best to put the pieces together, having the McColo twins, Maddie Hornstra, getting a lot of these girls that have been playing hockey, Aaliyah Adams, where they've all at some point played together. Sophie Jaremko is, one of the leading scorers in the nation as well. Megan Gary is one of the leading scorers in the nation. So I just do my best to put the right pieces together. These are the girls that make it work, and I couldn't be more blessed to have this group of girls and doing what they're doing.
Is there any girl on the team that you recruited that you thought would be good for the team, but didn't think would do as good as they have been doing so far this season?
Great question. Sophie Jaremko, 100%. I knew Sophie was good. Being across the river and as long as I've coached, I asked a lot of people over there, what kind of player she was like and everything like that. So I had high hopes for Sophie. I knew that she was going to be good. I knew she'd be a good teammate. But to have the season that she's having, I believe she's got about 46 points in 19 games. So she's top 5 in the country in scoring. Definitely didn't see that coming. She's a hard worker. She's an unbelievable worker. She moves her feet. You can see from the highlights or any film that you watch on her games. She just goes and goes and goes. So I knew she would do well. But that's been an absolute blessing to have her have the statistical year that she's having. So she was probably the biggest surprise for us. Not a surprise for me in the sense that I knew she'd be good. I didn't realize that she would have the career year that she's having in her freshman season.
It's amazing.
So when we're looking at the season, we've had some ups and some downs of the season. Tell me some about those ups of the season and then some of the downs.
Great question. You go through ebbs and flows as a program. I think anybody out there watching will understand from the women's side of the sport, you go through probably a little higher highs and a little lower lows. I pushed them really hard first semester. This is only my second season coaching women, so I'm learning a lot as well as I go. As well as these girls are learning. I think I pushed them pretty hard at the first half of the season. I scheduled our front half pretty heavy, and I think you really saw that towards the end of the semester. The girls I wore them down pretty quickly in the sense that, we're on the ice 4 days a week. We were pushing hard. End of the semester came around and just academics, I think, caught up. We went on a 3-game skid. The only 3 games we've lost all season were back to back. I think that was a pivotal point in our season where these girls understood that there's going to have adversity. You're going to have to deal with it. Things are going to happen. I don't believe there's many championship teams out there that don't deal with adversity. So that was definitely a low point for us. Probably one of the bigger games of the year for us was that Saturday game against Sioux College. They came out and beat us that first game for our 3rd loss in a row. We lost to Adrian right before break. Came back right before school started, lost to Assiniboine. Great program at Assiniboine. Unfortunately, due to some COVID issues, I wasn't on the bench. We had some other key players we were missing. And then first game back, second semester, Sioux College comes out and beats us by a goal. And then that game that we came back out, and I think we pretty well handled Sioux College, beat them 5-1 or 6-1. And that was a turning point for our season. I think the girls really understood that things happen inside a locker room, inside the classroom, and really dealing with adversity. And those girls shut the door on that and understanding that you got to close the noise and shut the noise out. And that was probably one of our bigger moments of adversity that we've dealt with throughout the season. So it builds character in a team.
Yeah, for sure. Now, when we're looking at the playoff picture, all three teams that we'll be playing against, you've either lost, tied, or won against all three of those. So, what's the playoff picture looking like in your mind right now?
I'm excited. I couldn't be more excited for what we're doing. These weekends are what you live for. These are what you strive for. I think, in retrospect, this is probably going to be one of the best playoffs in ACHA D2 hockey. If you look across the nation, I don't believe there's many top 4 teams in a single league that are this tight. Anybody can beat anybody this weekend. I'm going in there pushing these girls, knowing that, as you said, we beat every one of the teams, but we've also lost to a couple of them and tied one of them. You go in there and you take Northern lightly. They got Chloe Valente. She's second leading scorer in the nation in points. You go in there and you take Northern lightly, and she can get a couple by you. Adrian's in the same boat. Adrian's got some phenomenal goaltending. That girl's stopped more than 50 shots on us a couple times. So if you have a couple breakdowns in Adrian's the quality of school that can capitalize on those breakdowns. I believe her name's Hannah Taylor, and she's the kind of girl that will stop those pucks for you. And then Sioux College is, they're just gritty. They'll get you. They'll grind it out on you, and I think they're a team that a lot of people have probably looked over just because they haven't played a lot of games this year. But it's going to be an exciting weekend. I have full intentions of going in there and outright winning the CCWHA and punching our ticket to nationals. But it's going to be a hard-fought weekend. This is probably going to be the toughest weekend of hockey so far this year that we've had.
You touched on it a little bit, winning the CCWHA and then going on to nationals. What's the mindset going into that if you do make it to nationals?
One game at a time. So a great question. I shut that down with these girls pretty quickly, where I think that was something that we focused on too much at the beginning of the year. We're just going one game at a time. I want to win the CCWHA for these girls to experience, and we're making history here at Lake Superior State, and to have the season we're having, to go from one of the worst teams in the country to one of the best teams in the country. Credit to these young ladies and these young women and the effort that they're putting in. But we're going one game at a time. We're going to take Friday's game and hopefully win Friday's game. Saturday morning's game, hopefully win Saturday morning's game. Saturday evening's game, hopefully we can go 3-0 there. And then, we win the CCWHA, and then we'll think about St. Louis and figure out what we're going to do right there. I, as a coach, hopefully have great ambitions of competing and winning and getting to St. Louis. But at that point, I want to focus on the task at hand and what we have in front of us. And, we can do this again after playoffs, and hopefully we'll be talking about what we're going to do in St. Louis.
I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. You mentioned the 3-game loss streak that we went on earlier in the season. Do you think if we didn't have that long extended winter break where the girls didn't really get to practice together much because we had over a month, do you think that could have changed a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. 30 days off in any sport, anything, whether you're working your job, you're playing athletics, anything, 30 days off is tough to come back from. The Assiniboine game, I kind of chalked that up as to just kind of a wash. If Assiniboine hadn't been in the Sioux, playing Sioux College, and originally planning on coming over here, we wouldn't have ended up likely playing them. Their head coach has some ties here to the Sioux, so he reached out to me. So that good game, good team, but 30 days off and to come back and face somebody like Assiniboine, that's tough. That's tough for anybody. I believe that 3-game skid definitely had something to do with 2-game skid, really. Adrian beat us. Obviously, Adrian's a great team. I think that was one of our worst games of the year that we've played. I think with academics and the stressors of college in general, exams, kind of caught up to our girls there. Going hard 4 days in a row, sometimes 6 out of 7 days they're playing hockey. Kind of caught up to them, but no excuses. It's something you learn from. It's something you grow from. 18 years of hockey, I've seen one team go undefeated in the regular season. it's just not something you strive for. It's not something I think is always necessarily realistic. I don't believe as a coach you want to go undefeated. I believe wholeheartedly that you need to be able to face adversity and deal with it and push through it and learn from it. So I think that 3-game skid for us, the timing of it was perfect. The teams that we lost to were perfect. Knowing that we're going to hopefully see Assiniboine down the road. Obviously, we'll see Adrian. They're our 3rd game in playoffs, which that could be a make or break game. Playing Adrian Saturday night, probably going to be the biggest game of the year in the CCWHA. That could either be us ending Adrian's season, or that could be Adrian ending our season, or that could be a precursor to what the CCWHA championship game could look like. So, 3 good games to lose, great games to lose, great teams to lose too. So they were exciting learning process. I like learning games. I like these girls learning lessons, and I think those are 3 games that the timing of them were good, and they taught us a lot of tough lessons.
So you talked about it a little bit, how different last season was to this season. What's the plan for, the upcoming off season going into next year's season? What are you going to do to keep that ball rolling that we've had this year, that huge, difference?
Great question. Super great question. We will be adding an ACHA Division I women's team and continuing our ACHA Division II program. So I'm out there recruiting again this year, looking to add more pieces of the puzzle. We'll take a good core of the D2 that we have, move those girls up that can play at that D1 level, move them up to the D1. We'll continue to recruit in some girls that didn't get a lot of opportunities to play this year at the D2 level. We'll get more opportunity to play next year, and we'll add and hopefully continue the successes of our D2 program at the D2 level, and then hopefully add some major pieces of the puzzle, which we've added so far already. We have a couple massive recruits coming out of Alberta. Chloe Boyko, she's a top 4 leading scorer in the Alberta Female Hockey League. Kaylee Dixon's one of the best defensemen in the Alberta Female Hockey League. And Asia Kachuk, one of the best goalies. Those are probably 3 of my biggest recruits that I've had all year. My bad. 3 of my biggest recruits that I've had all year. As well, we have Lindsay Tonello, Josie Rebo coming out of Kalkaska K-Stars. And then we have Sarah Lamb, who's Heather's twin sister. So what we've added moving forward, I believe our successes will continue. I believe that we will have a good core of girls that'll be moving up, that'll be able to really get these freshmen coming in acclimated pretty quickly to ACHA hockey and just being a student athlete. And I think a lot of girls on the D2 program, we're going to have a D2 program that's going to continue to hopefully be one of the better D2 programs in the CCWHA, where girls that maybe didn't get a ton of playing time this season are going to have a big season where they're really going to need to step up and be leaders within that program and continue to push that program to be successful. So I'll be back at it recruiting again all year, all summer, and really looking to put the pieces together for both programs so that we can be a premier destination for women's college hockey in the ACHA level.
Looking at the year, obviously we've had some amazing wins. What game impressed you the most by these Lady Lakers, in the sense that you went in knowing that the team was good, but our Lady Lakers were able to pull through and dominate?
I got 2 weekends. That's a double-edged sword. I got 2 weekends. Northern Michigan, our first games of the year on the road. That was, our first 2 legitimate wins as a program. You can't take that away from anything. We had Alyssa Ferguson in net. She played huge for us. And to go in there against a program like Northern that's had an established ACHA women's program for quite a few years now and get those 2 wins was absolutely tremendous. But probably the biggest games of my coaching career so far to date that have meant the most to me as a coach was Adrian. Hands down. Adrian's had women's hockey at Adrian. They're one of the staple programs in ACHA hockey for women's hockey. So to go down to Adrian and sweep Adrian, I think was very much a statement for these girls to say, hey, we're here. we're going to be here, we're going to compete, and we're coming for you. We got absolutely demolished by Adrian last year, and I think they really enjoyed it. Our team wasn't the caliber, nearly obviously the caliber of what it was this year. It was our first year, and they enjoyed it, and that really kind of resonated with me. They say hockey players have a long memory. That's something that I think I've always kind of sat on. And since they swept us and did it pretty handily, and they really enjoyed it, for lack of better words, kind of rubbed it in our face. And for what our program was at the time, that really that got me going. And one of my goals all year was, I'm going to get you back. I'm going to bring a program down here, and I'm going to show you that we can compete, and we will do it to you. So for these girls, this group of girls, to go all in, and for us to go down there and sweep Adrian, was a pivotal moment in our season. And that is, for me, in the last 2 years, probably the biggest win, where I really think that set the tone for us this season moving forward, knowing we can beat teams like Adrian, who are some of the best teams, one of the best programs in the country, was huge for us and absolutely pivotal. And I think that really, these girls knew at that point, at that moment, at that weekend, sweeping Adrian, they knew they belonged, and they knew we could do this.
So I have one major question for you. The chemistry on this team is phenomenal. How do you think, like, especially with the first two lines, if we get down on the penalty kill, our players in the box, and we have two PK players out there that usually don't play with that player in the box, they come out and they're still able to, put a point up on the boards in some cases. How are these girls able to build that chemistry so well?
I think that's an attribute to these young ladies. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the year, we lost Katie Robinson to a car accident. And when you go through something like that as a team, it puts a time frame on your mortality. It's unfortunately nothing that I ever want to go through again as a coach, and nothing that I ever wish for a program to go through. But it gives you something that you generally, for the most part, don't see and don't realize, that our time on this earth is not guaranteed. Your time in this sport is not guaranteed. And I think we all very much knew Katie. She was going to be a big part of our program. She is a big part of our program. You can probably look over my shoulder here and see the stickers that are on her helmets. If you ever watch a game or see a game, it's something, her jersey's always with us. And I think these girls buying in, chemistry, I think, comes from everybody buying into the process. I'm blessed with the group of women that we do have, that they've bought into the passion that I have as a coach, the emotionalness that I have as a coach, and understanding that you legitimately have to play every shift as if it may be your last shift. In this competitive sport, you can go out there and you can blow a knee out, and it can be your last shift. So I think these girls have really all very much bought into the understanding that you have to play as if this is your last game and this could be your last shift. And even still, the beginning of the season, very much playing in a world of COVID, we didn't know at some point, the league, the university, anything could be, hey, this has popped off too much, we're going to be done playing. So that chemistry is definitely all on these young women, and how they've bought into understanding that you can't take any shifts for granted. This will sneak up on you. It will be done. I think you guys can probably both agree that this season went by pretty quickly.
Yeah.
From when you guys jumped on board at the beginning of the year to where we're at now. And it goes by you. And the unfortunate reality for women in hockey is there's not a lot of opportunities for them after. And I've really drilled that home to my girls, where this is it. This can be the last 4 or 5 years of your competitive career. In every game, like I tell my girls, every day you're one day closer to the last day of your career, and how are you going to treat that? And when they can really buy into that and understanding that, Friday's game's over, that's one less game you have in your career. Saturday's game's over, that's one day less you have in your career. And if you can play in a manner that you won't regret how you played Friday and Saturday, you will win games. That effort will pay off. I believe in the hockey gods, and I believe in effort. And when you play in that fashion, that that you're one day closer to the last day of your career, good things will happen. You'll get the bounces, you'll have that effort. And I really think that's, these girls have wholeheartedly bought into that process of knowing that, whether you have 3 years left, that's going to come quickly, and cherishing every moment that we have together in life, every moment that we have together in this team, and really going out there and playing for Katie and knowing that, you know, she should be here with us and we play in the fashion that she would play, and, you know, not taking shifts off and, you know, winning the little battles and really going out there and proving that these young women belong in this sport and belong in this university.
I gotta think of a question.
I mean, what you just said kind of hits home for me, especially. I played hockey for 14 years. I'm only 20 years old. I started when I was young because my brothers were into it. I'd go play high school hockey, decent high school hockey program, very competitive. And my freshman year, I just remember the seniors. They're all like, it's going to come up on you. And you don't feel it until you're there. And even in the beginning of that senior year, it's just like, oh, we're doing it again. And then at the end, you just don't know what's going to end.
And that's probably, you know, you asked that great question about chemistry. I think that's probably the basis of my coaching, is understanding it's not always a fun thing to realize. It's not always a fun thing to understand. But when you go through something like losing Katie and losing not just a player, but losing a person that Katie was, you know, she's everything that I hope my daughters can grow up to be like. And I'm lucky where, you know, having somebody like her that was in my life and having somebody like these young women who, you know, I'm able to raise my daughters, you know, God willing, where they get to grow up and see something like this and see these young women doing what they're doing. And the chemistry side of it, like you say, is just these girls buying into understanding that, you know, your time in college is short. You know, you're only looking at 4, maybe 5 years of college, and, you know, something where you're hopefully going to live a long life in your 80s, 90s, whatever. 4 or 5 years is a pretty minute period of time. And getting them to understand that when this is over, it is over. You will never get this locker room back. You know, even moving forward, this team will change. People within these programs will change. And knowing that you won't get this back, you won't get a season like this. It may never come again. You know, getting an opportunity to consistently be one of the top teams in the country, you know, end of the regular season, we're the #1 team in the nation in ACHA D2. That may never happen again. You know, the reality of it is, it may never happen again. Hopefully in my time, that's something that we can repeat. But getting these girls to understand that you're creating history, you're making these moments, you're writing the books yourself. You know, one of those things where you get a lot of people that like to read history books and read, you know, what this person did or what that person did. I'm not much into that. I want to write my own book. I want to take these group of girls and write our own pages. And I really think that this chemistry and what they're doing this year is a testament to those girls looking at each other, looking at themselves within this program, and knowing that they can do it and that they want to do it, and they're writing their own book in the history of here. You know, at Lake State, 75 years of a university that's, you know, a well-known university nationally that's, you know, based in Hockey Town, and, you know, we've had one of the best Division I programs for a lot of years at a small school, and to now add women's hockey and be where we're at in year 2 is just a testament to these young ladies. You know, I can't thank them enough. I wouldn't be in the position I am as a coach if it wasn't for them. You know, if it wasn't for their effort, I can't take any credit for it. I won't take any credit for it because I can't get out on the ice and do it. I wish like heck I could, but I can't. It's them, and they deserve all the credit for it and what they're doing.
I think a great question to end on is, you get down to nationals, you win a national championship. What would that mean to you, and what would that mean to the team?
I'd cry. I'd cry a lot. It's an emotional thing to think about for me. That would be a lifelong dream. It's hard to put into words. You know, you see some of these guys that win national championships and they win a Stanley Cup, and they get interviewed right after, and it's something we've watched as kids, and they have no words. Because I don't think there's any words that encapsulate what that truly means. For me, in 18 years of coaching, it would be the pinnacle of my career. It would be my Stanley Cup. It would be everything that I've sacrificed for, being away from my family, missing time with my kids, missing my children's hockey games, missing, you know, time with them, missing time with my wife, missing time, just you miss time with your families, not in the sense of you actually miss it, but legitimately missing those moments that you can't get back as a father, you can't get back as a coach, and then everything that I dealt with in getting to this point as a coach. 18 years of coaching. 8 of those years were driving to St. Agnes every day. 50 minutes getting off working. At one point, I'd lost a job, and the only other job I could find was being a plow truck driver. So from 3 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, I would plow. I'd meet my buddies, my other coaches that I was with, still in all my, my Carhartts, and jump in a truck and drive 45 minutes to St. Agnes, where I'd get a nap in, and then change and go out on the ice and practice for 2 hours. And I'd leave home at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't get back until 10 o'clock at night, and get a bite to eat, go to sleep, and go back at it the next day. That national championship would be everything that would be worth it. I lost my dad a couple years ago to a heart attack. It would mean a lot for me knowing that my dad never got to see this. My dad was the guy that brought me to Laker games, that got me into Laker hockey, that would be in the stands for every one of these games, watching these games. So to win a national championship, for me personally, would mean a lot, knowing that, missing my dad the way that I do for that. My mother, everything that she went through, raising me and working multiple jobs, my grandparents, and then all the coaches that I had before. This is my first head coaching job. 2 years into it, I was never a head coach prior to this. So all the coaches that I learned from before, prior, my buddies that I coached with, I'm learning everything from them. The people that owned our Junior A hockey program that gave us an opportunity to get into junior hockey. Winning a national championship for me on a personal level would be a thank you to everybody that got me to where I'm at today, and then for these young women to experience something like that, and for this school, to be the first national championship in women's hockey in Lake Superior State University's history, and to add to the tradition in the national championships and hang a banner. For me, being born and raised here, one of my best friends being Coach Canisto, and us growing up in Laker hockey and watching that, and watching, Doug LaProds and Doug Waits and Mark Verments and Mark Ashleys and Darren Maidleys and, John Graham, Blaine Locker, all these guys come through here. And to now, from a coach's standpoint, to be able to do something that you get to be in the rafters with guys like that, a dream come true doesn't even touch what it would mean to me. So come talk to me then, but no cameras. I'll be crying. I'll be crying for sure.
And then what do you think it means to the women for if that were to happen? What do you going through a player's mindset?
Man, I can't imagine what this group of women would feel like in here winning a national championship. Gives me goosebumps. I think we have a very intelligent group of women. We have a very strong group of women. I love them all very dearly. They're all a bunch of strong-willed, intelligent go-getters. I mean, these group of women that are in this locker room and a part of this program are going to do some great things, from criminal justice to nursing to business to engineering. I know wholeheartedly that 10, 15 years down the road, these girls are going to be changing the trajectory of what they do in their businesses. And to win a national championship year 2, have the season we've had, gone through the adversity that we've gone through, COVID, everything, the long bus rides, just everything. I can't imagine what it would be like for this group of women to win it. The girls that have moved 1,000 miles away from home, 700 miles away from home, to come in here and to cap off your year on a national championship. I've only competed in one tournament in 18 years of coaching. Coach K, 10 years of professional hockey, played Division I here at Lake State, played major juniors in the North American League and the United States Hockey League. He's only competed in one national tournament. So between the two of us and the years of experience we've had, and we've only each respectively competed in one tournament, to be able to get that opportunity and get that experience, if you can go down there and, God willing, the hockey gods help you out, and you can come away and win a national championship, it's a lifelong goal. It's a pinnacle of your sport. It's, it's your Stanley Cup. It's it's everything. It sums up everything that you've worked hard. It validates every feeling that you've experienced. It validates your tears. It validates the heartache. It validates the losses. It validates the wins. You know, it makes you understand that everything you've gone through in a year, 2 years, everything that your parents went through to get you to this point, it's all worth it. It's the Stanley Cup, man. It's the Holy Grail. It's everything that you want in life as an athlete.
Don't think it was worded any better.
I don't either. Well, thank you for taking the time today to sit down and talk to us.
Oh, I
Look at
appreciate it,
playoffs this week.
fellas. No, you guys are great. We love what you do and appreciate you having it. And hopefully we can get together again after playoffs and talk more about nationals.
Absolutely.
Sounds amazing.
All right, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.